I knew I didn't belong there. The moment I stepped into the ballroom, I could feel the weight of the world pressing down on me, the soft hum of voices, the clink of glasses, the rustling of designer gowns. It was all so shiny, polished, perfect. The kind of world Kate had grown up in, the one I'd never quite fit into, no matter how hard I tried. Kate, standing next to me in her silver dress, her hand lightly resting on my arm, like it was some kind of accessory, gave me that smile she used when we had to make an appearance. The one that said, "I love you, but you're not quite right for this crowd." I'd learned to ignore it over the years, but tonight it hit a little different. Maybe it was the way her family was eyeing me, like I was some oddity they hadn't quite figured out yet. I pulled at my collar, trying not to fidget in the expensive suit Kate had picked out for me. She was good at that, picking clothes, choosing what she thought would make me look like I belonged. I wanted to tell her I didn't need any of this, didn't need their approval, but I kept my mouth shut. I'd worked hard to get here, built everything from the ground up. My company, my roofing business, had made me a success, even if it was all in the dirt and grime and sweat of real work. Across the room, her sister Emily's laugh rang out, sharp and clear, slicing through the chatter like a knife. She was talking to some of the other high society types when she leaned in a little too close to Kate and whispered something I couldn't quite catch. Then I saw it, a quick glance in my direction, the kind that felt like it was meant for my eyes to find. I hated it. "They're just contractors," Emily said loud enough for me to hear, and the words burned like acid. Kate smiled at me, but it didn't reach her eyes. I held my breath, biting the inside of my cheek. I wasn't going to confront her about this, not in front of all these people, but it stung more than I expected. A couple of her friends came up to me, chatting like they were trying to be polite, but the words cut deeper than they should have. "Oh, you're just a simple guy from the suburbs, huh?" one of them asked. The way she said it made it clear that she thought it was something to laugh at. I wanted to walk away, to leave this whole damn thing behind, but I didn't. I stayed because I didn't want Kate to think I couldn't handle myself, but inside, I was seething. That's when it hit me. Kate had never really seen me for who I was. I wasn't her equal. I was the guy she had to tolerate to fit the narrative her family had built for her. And the longer I stood there, pretending everything was fine, the more I realized this night, this gala, was never about charity. It was about reminding me of the gap between my world and theirs. I just hadn't wanted to see it before. We didn't talk about the gala the whole ride home. The silence between us wasn't new. It felt like it had always been there, but tonight it was heavier. As soon as we stepped into the house, I couldn't keep it inside anymore. "Kate," I started, trying to keep my voice steady. "I don't know if you noticed, but your family..." She cut me off before I could even finish. "Not tonight, Tom. Please," she said, tossing her clutch onto the counter. Her back was already turned to me, like she was done with it, done with me. "But Kate, they were talking about me. I heard them. I heard everything. But you're overreacting," she snapped, her voice cold, the way it always got when she didn't want to deal with something. "You always do this, Tom. Always make everything about you." I felt my stomach twist. "It is about me," I said, trying to keep the anger from creeping into my voice. "It's about how they talk about me like I don't belong there." She turned around, exasperated. "You're being oversensitive. It's just family, Tom. They don't mean anything by it. You know how they are. Can't you just let it go? It's a charity gala, for God's sake. Don't ruin a perfectly good evening." I was trying to keep it together, but I could feel my patience slipping. "I'm not ruining anything," I said quietly. "I just want you to hear me, to care." She didn't say anything at first, just stared at me like I was the one causing the problem. I let out a breath, feeling the weight of her indifference press down on me. This is how it always is. Her family's approval mattered more than my feelings. I'd known it deep down, but tonight, it stung more than usual. "Anyway," she said, brushing me off with a wave of her hand, "there's an anniversary celebration for my parents next month. Big deal, lots of people. Your name's not on the guest list, just so you know." I blinked. "Not on the list?" "No. They thought it would be easier if it was just family, you know." She said it casually, like it didn't matter, but I could feel the implication in her voice. It wasn't just easier, it was a choice that didn't include me. I nodded, but it didn't stop the knot from tightening in my chest. I shouldn't have been surprised. Kate's family had always kept me at arm's length, and I'd always let it slide, telling myself it didn't matter. But tonight, I couldn't pretend anymore. I stood there for a moment, watching her fiddle with her phone, completely unaffected. The anger was bubbling up now, but I kept it down. There was no point in fighting it. I had learned the hard way that it would get me nowhere. "You okay?" she asked, her voice flat, distracted. I let out a slow breath. "Yeah, fine." But I wasn't fine. I wasn't fine at all. The week after the gala, something inside me snapped. I'd spent enough time playing nice, hoping things would change, waiting for Kate to see me for who I really was. But I'd been fooling myself. If I wanted anything to change, I had to be the one to do it. I needed to take control of my life, of my business, of my damn future, and not just to prove her family wrong. No, this wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. I wasn't going to spend another minute letting Kate or anyone else define my worth. I started researching new markets, places where my company could expand, grow beyond just roofing. I had contacts in the industry, some old friends who had made moves in commercial construction. I started making calls, sending emails, getting the ball rolling on projects that could take my business into a new direction. It was slow at first, just groundwork, but I could feel the momentum building. I also started putting my money to work in ways I hadn't before, diversifying my investments, making strategic moves. The financial stuff wasn't always exciting, but I'd learned over the years that real wealth wasn't just in what you did, but in how you positioned yourself. Kate's family would never see it, but that wasn't the point anymore. It took a couple of months, but finally, something clicked. A new deal came through, bigger than anything I'd ever pulled off before. A massive contract for a high-rise project downtown. It wasn't just roofing, it was everything. This was my company stepping up, and it felt damn good. I kept the news quiet at first, not planning to bring it up until the deal was finalized. It wasn't just about the money. It was about proving I didn't need anyone's validation, especially not Kate's family. I didn't need them to tell me I was good enough. I was already good enough. I knew who I was, and that was more than enough. As the deal came together, I noticed something. People were starting to treat me differently. Contacts I'd reached out to for years, who had barely given me the time of day, were suddenly eager to work with me. Investors were more interested. There was a shift, and it felt damn good. The snubs from Kate's family still stung, but less so now. I didn't need their approval. I was winning without them. But there was something I hadn't seen coming. Kate started getting more involved, not in a supportive way. She was still too wrapped up in her own world, too busy keeping her family happy. But she started bringing up my success at every opportunity, like it was somehow hers too. And it wasn't just casual. She was pushing me to ask her parents for help, asking them for their connections, their influence. It wasn't just that she wanted them involved. She was trying to use me, my success, to make her family look better. I realized then that the truth I had been avoiding for years was staring me in the face. Kate didn't care about me. Not really. She cared about what I could do for her and her family. She always had. The anger I had been holding in, the frustration, it was all starting to boil over again. But this time, I wasn't going to let it simmer. I wasn't going to back down. The way I saw it, if Kate didn't start respecting me for who I was, who I had become, I was done. Done with her games. Done with her family's disregard. Done with living in the shadow of their expectations. The business was growing, and so was I. The question now wasn't whether I could succeed. It was whether Kate would accept me for who I really was, or if I had to walk away completely. The dinner felt like a performance, one I wasn't sure I was supposed to be a part of. Kate's family had invited me over to celebrate my success, but it didn't feel like celebration. Not really. They'd managed to twist my recent accomplishments into some kind of joke I wasn't in on. Her dad, Frank, smiled as he passed the roast, but it wasn't a genuine smile. "Well, Tom," he said with that patronizing tone of his, "looks like you've really hit the jackpot. Good thing you've got Kate's family behind you, huh?" I forced a smile, took a sip of my wine. "Yeah, lucky me," I said, keeping my voice level, even though the words tasted sour on my tongue. Next to him, Alex, Kate's younger brother, chimed in with his usual smug grin. "It's amazing how you've done all this, Tom. Really impressive. You couldn't have done it without a little help, right? I mean, no one makes it big without a little push." I could feel the weight of their eyes on me, like I was some kind of experiment they were waiting to see fail. They didn't believe I'd earned any of it, and in their eyes, I had always just been Kate's project. Kate smiled at them, her eyes glowing with that familiar, detached pride she always had when her family acknowledged my success. I wanted to scream. As the night dragged on, the backhanded compliments kept coming, wrapped in sugar-coated condescension. "You know, you really ought to thank us for some of that," Frank said, laughing like it was all a joke. "Connections make all the difference after all." My stomach turned. Kate laughed along, nodding in agreement. "Oh, definitely. Tom's success wouldn't have been possible without some help from us. You know how it is, right?" She tossed the words out like they were nothing. Like it didn't sting to hear her imply that everything I had built was somehow tied to her family's influence. I bit my tongue so hard I could taste blood. There was no point in arguing. Not tonight, not in front of them. I played along, forced a smile, and pretended it didn't bother me. But inside, I was unraveling. Every word they spoke chipped away at whatever had been left of the respect I thought I could earn from them. The thing was, I realized, it was never about the business, never about the success I had built from scratch. Kate's family had never seen me as an equal. They saw me as someone they tolerated because I fit into their daughter's story. I wasn't a self-made man in their eyes. I was just a contractor who got lucky. The night dragged on. We ate, we drank, and the comments kept coming. But I was starting to numb to it. I wasn't even angry anymore, just empty. I could feel my resolve hardening. The whole time I was there, pretending to be part of their world, I knew it wasn't my world. I didn't belong at that table with those people. They didn't respect me. As the evening wore down, I excused myself to the bathroom, needing a minute to breathe. I passed by the hallway and overheard Frank talking to Kate in a hushed voice, probably thinking no one could hear him. "You really think Tom's doing all this on his own?" Frank asked, low enough that I had to lean in to catch the words. "I'm not sure he could have handled it without so much help." I froze, my hand on the doorframe, the weight of his words hitting me like a punch to the gut. I'd heard enough. So much help. That was it. That's how he saw me. That's how Kate's family always saw me. As a man who couldn't hold his own, couldn't stand on his own 2 feet without their patronizing assistance. It wasn't just a dig at my business, it was a dig at me. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd fought to build, was nothing more than a result of their charity. I turned around and walked back into the dining room, my heart racing, but I kept my face neutral. There was no use in confronting Kate about it now. I was done with all of them. The polite smiles, the empty words, they were all a game to them, and I was done playing. I sat back down at the table, my anger simmering under the surface, colder now than it had ever been. This was the last time I would ever let her family treat me like this. No more pretending, no more hoping they'd come around. If they couldn't see who I was, then I was done trying to prove it. When we got home from dinner, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Kate was taking her shoes off by the door, looking at her phone, acting like everything was fine, like I hadn't just heard her father talk about me like I was some charity case. "Kate," I said, my voice sharp, cutting through the quiet. "We need to talk about what happened tonight." She looked up, already frowning, like she knew this wasn't going to be good. "Oh, Tom, come on, not now. It's just family banter. You're being too sensitive again." I felt my jaw clench. "Family banter?" I repeated, my voice getting louder, more strained. "Kate, your dad doesn't think I can handle my own business. Your brother thinks I'm just lucky because I have you guys around to help me out. And you sit there and act like it's no big deal." She sighed and rolled her eyes. "Oh God, here we go. Tom, you're overreacting. They don't mean anything by it. They're just what? Making jokes at my expense?" My heart was pounding now, the anger seeping out of me, but I didn't care. "It's more than that. They've never respected me. Never seen me for anything more than your blue-collar husband, right? You think I didn't notice the way they look at me? The way they talk about me like I'm some kind of charity case?" Her eyes went wide, and she stood up straight, clearly surprised by the force of what I was saying. "Tom, you're just being too sensitive," she repeated, but there was something in her tone that made it sound more like she was dismissing me than actually listening. "No, I'm not," I said, stepping closer to her, my voice low but firm. "You think they respect me? You think they respect what I've built? All they see is a guy who got lucky and married into their perfect world. You want to know the truth, Kate? I've never been an equal to them, to you, and it's starting to get to me." Her face twisted, like I'd slapped her, and for a second, I thought maybe I'd finally broken through. But then, she took a step back, crossing her arms in that defensive way she did whenever she felt threatened. "You're overreacting, Tom. It's not like that. It wasn't like that. Was she kidding me?" "I'm not the one who's overreacting," I said, voice shaking with frustration. "You are. You always have been. You've been choosing them over me for years, and I'm done with it. I've been trying to fit into your world. Hell, I've been trying to get them to see me as something more than just the guy you married because you felt sorry for me. But you know what? They won't. And you won't either unless you make a choice. Your family's approval or me." She was quiet for a moment, her eyes searching mine, but she didn't say anything. Then, almost like she was trying to fix it, trying to smooth things over, she said, "Tom, look, just tone it down around them, okay? For the sake of peace. Don't make everything so dramatic. Can't we just make it easier on everyone?" I froze. That was it. Tone it down. Like I was the one making this hard. Like all I needed to do was shut up and swallow their insults. Pretend like everything was fine and maybe, just maybe, they'd let me hang around long enough to prove I was good enough. I felt the last piece of hope I'd been clinging to crumble in my chest. Kate wasn't on my side. She'd never been on my side. I stood there staring at her, the weight of everything we'd never talked about finally hitting me. I didn't want to hear her excuses. I didn't want her to tell me I was being dramatic or sensitive. She was telling me who I was, and it wasn't good enough. "Fine," I said, voice barely above a whisper, but there was steel in it. "I'll tell you what, if this relationship is going to work, you need to make a choice. You need to decide if you're going to keep letting your family push me around, or if you're going to stand up for me. Because if it's always going to be them over me, then I'm done." She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. "No, I'm not having this conversation anymore. Not unless you're ready to choose. Your family's approval or me. You can't have both." I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her standing there. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to make this easy for her anymore. She needed to see who I was, or I was done. I couldn't sleep that night. The anger was still burning inside me, but there was something else. Something heavier, quieter. It wasn't just about Kate anymore. It was about everything I'd been ignoring for years. The little ways she'd made me feel less than. The constant feeling of being other. Of never quite measuring up to her world. I loved her, sure, but I was starting to wonder if love was enough. As I lay there, I thought about the business, about everything I'd worked for. I had built it from nothing. No family to back me, no fancy connections, just me and the sweat off my back. And I realized something. Kate had never really seen that. She saw me as a project, something to fix, and the worst part, I'd let her. The next morning, I started making calls, not to her family, not to anyone who tried to tear me down, but to the people who had always believed in me, the ones who saw what I was capable of, even if Kate's family didn't. I looked into my options, legal and financial. I didn't want to think about what life would be like without Kate, but I couldn't ignore the reality anymore. If she wasn't going to choose me, if she couldn't see my worth, then I had to consider what came next. When Kate came home later that day, she tried to smooth things over, like it was all a misunderstanding. "Tom, I'm sorry," she said, walking into the living room, her voice soft, but that familiar edge of defensiveness still there. "I didn't mean it the way you took it. Things will get better, I promise. You just have to trust me." I didn't trust her. I couldn't. I stood up, running a hand through my hair. "Kate, you don't get it," I said, my voice steady, even though I could feel the weight of everything pressing down on me. "I've been trying to make this work for years, trying to get your family to see me for who I am. But it's never going to change. You've always put them first. You've always chosen their approval over me. And I can't do this anymore." She looked at me like I was the one who'd gone crazy. "You're being dramatic, Tom. Just let it go, please. I'm asking you to stay. Things will get better, I swear. We'll figure this out. I will figure this out." But I couldn't believe her. Not anymore. She wasn't asking me to stay because she valued me. She was asking me to stay because she couldn't stand the thought of losing the life that was convenient for her, the life where her family was in charge. "I'm not asking for anything, Kate," I said, my tone hardening. "I've already made up my mind. This isn't going to work. Not unless you change. Not unless you actually choose me for once." Her face fell, but she didn't fight me. She just stood there, silent, like she was trying to process what I was saying, like she couldn't quite grasp that I was serious. I wasn't looking for a fight anymore. I wasn't looking for her to come around. I was done. Later that week, I got a call from Kate's father. I didn't want to answer it, but I did anyway. "Tom," Frank said, his voice smooth as ever. "I've been thinking, maybe we can help you with your business. A little financial backing, some guidance on the next phase. We want to see you succeed, you know?" I sat there for a moment, the offer hanging in the air like a weight. I could feel the pressure, the pull to take what they were offering, to finally get the approval I'd always wanted. But the truth was, I didn't need their help. I had built this business without them, and I sure as hell wasn't going to rely on them now. "Thanks, Frank," I said, my voice calm, controlled. "But I've got it from here. I'm doing fine on my own." There was a pause on the other end. "Are you sure, Tom? It's a good opportunity. I'm sure." And that was it. I hung up the phone, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. I was going to take control of my life. I was going to build my business, my future, for me, not for Kate, not for anyone else. It was time to stop living for their approval, time to live for myself. The event was packed. Industry leaders, investors, people who had never given me the time of day were suddenly looking at me like I was someone worth talking to. I'd been invited to speak, and as I stood at the front of the room, microphone in hand, I felt a rush of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not just pride, but power. I was in control, and it felt damn good. I cleared my throat and looked out over the crowd. There were faces I recognized, faces I didn't. But tonight, it didn't matter. I wasn't here to impress anyone. I was here to show them who I was, who I had become. "I'm proud to announce a major partnership tonight," I began, my voice strong and steady. "This new venture marks the next phase in our company's growth, and I'm excited to take it into new markets. We're expanding. We're not just roofing anymore. We're building a legacy." I saw heads nod, people exchanging glances. This wasn't just some small-time roofing company anymore. It was something bigger, something real. As I wrapped up my speech, I noticed Kate standing near the back of the room, her arms crossed, watching me. Her eyes were narrow, and I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to process this new version of me, the one who didn't need her or her family to succeed. After the event, she found me in the crowd. Her smile was strained, forced, like she didn't quite know how to react. "That was impressive," she said, her voice cold but trying to be warm. "I didn't realize you had all this in you." I raised an eyebrow. "I guess you never really knew me, did you?" Her face twitched at that, and for the first time in a long while, I saw a flicker of something real in her eyes. Not admiration, more like a mixture of shock and confusion. It wasn't the look of someone proud of me. It was the look of someone realizing she had lost control. "I think we need to talk," she said, her tone quieter now, almost pleading. We stepped aside from the crowd, into a quieter corner of the venue. Kate looked at me, her expression softer, but I could tell she was holding back. "Tom, I don't get it. You've changed. You used to be the guy who needed me, who needed my family's help. And now you're," she paused, searching for the right word, "different. I don't know how to handle this." I shook my head, the weight of everything coming to a head. "Kate, I'm not the guy you thought I was. I'm not here for your family's approval anymore, and I'm not going to be the guy you control just to fit your picture of me." Her face dropped, the shock turning into something else. Hurt, maybe, but there was no going back now. "What are you saying, Tom?" she asked, her voice small, quieter than I'd ever heard it. "I'm saying that I'm moving forward without you. I don't need your family's validation. I don't need anyone telling me who I am or what I can do." There was silence between us, thick and heavy. I saw the tears welling in her eyes, but I couldn't bring myself to care. I couldn't feel sorry for her anymore. Not when I had spent so many years ignoring my own worth to make her and her family happy. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean for things to get like this. I didn't realize how far we drifted." "Maybe you didn't," I said, my voice steady. "But I did, and it's time I stopped pretending it's not happening." We stood there for a moment, and then I turned away, walking out of the room without looking back. I had made my choice. I wasn't going to be anyone's second choice anymore. I wasn't going to hide my success or my worth for anyone. I was moving forward on my terms, not theirs. The future was mine now. And as I walked out into the cool night air, I finally felt a sense of peace settle over me. I was building something real, something that didn't rely on anyone else's approval. I didn't need Kate's family, and I didn't need her. The next chapter of my life was mine to write.